Hello and welcome to Primetime Morning. I'm Stephen Chow.
Very good morning to you as well. I'm Suzanne Zhang. I'll look at our top stories this hour.
All right, if you're a parent, you might want to pay close attention to our next segment. Are there some types of food that make your child behave better or even perform better at school?
To set the record straight, we spoke with a pediatrician who was visiting from the U.S. Dr. Christine Woods is an expert on kids' nutrition. And I began by asking her if there are really food that helps a child concentrate in his or her studies.
There's certainly been a lot of controversy around it. Kind of started in the 1970s with a doctor, Dr. Feingold, who identified those hyperactive kids, and they can be affected by sugar and certain artificial sweeteners or colors. And there was a lot of controversy about it, but a lot of the research that's accumulated since then seems to point that there are certain kids who can benefit with their behavior and their learning and things like that with certain types of food taken away or certain types of foods added.
Give us a few examples. I mean, maybe a guideline for parents out there.
Yeah, as far as sugar, drinking a lot of sodas or juices that have a lot of sugar in it, some parents do find that their kids can get more hyperactive with that. The other things that have been looked at are dyes, like yellow, red dyes, all those types of things, those chemical type things may affect some kids as far as making them a little more active. As far as trying to improve their attention, I know that there's a lot of exams going on and everything. As far as trying to improve their attention, there's been some research looking at things like omega-3 fats. And there's one particular component called DHA, or docosahexaenoic acid. And that's been shown to perhaps have some positive benefits as far as attention and focus and learning and behavior also, less aggression.
Parents are always in tune to reports when they see in the journals about brain food, how food can make your child smarter or perhaps be more focused in studies. Is that true? How true is it?
Well, again, there's some research to point that there are some places where that can benefit them. Some of the interesting research that's appeared now is in infant brain development. So what a mom eats during pregnancy can be very important. And again, some of the things looking at the omega-3 fats can be very important. And even in the infant formulas, they've now added that into a lot of the infant formulas. And moms have to get it in their diet. They primarily get it from fatty fish, things like tuna or sardines, anchovies, those types of foods. And that's why we used to call fish brain food. I think a lot of kids grew up hearing that.
Right.
And there is some evidence that omega-3 fat actually binds to the cell membranes in the brain. And it's been shown that it may help improve intelligence and things like that. And even kids who have been supplemented with that who are older, they've shown some research to say that some kids may have some benefits as far as their attention.
Besides a good diet plan for children, especially when they're in that age where they're really growing up fast, is it important to also include, like, you know, at our age we have vitamin pills and supplements. What about children?
Well, I'm a believer in supplements, mainly because I know how kids eat today. And sometimes it's a challenge, especially with more processed food choices out there and more fast food choices and parents taking their kids out to eat more. So I understand that kids just don't get the nutrients that they need. And even some research in the U.S. looking at kids getting what they call the RDA there, which is the recommended dietary allowances, they showed that the majority of kids are not getting even the recommended dietary allowances. And they even showed, like, 2 to 5-year-olds, only 91% were getting inadequate vitamin E. So the majority are not getting even enough vitamins and minerals in their diets.
Well, I can understand it perfectly, but the idea of a young kid popping pills at such a young age, I mean, how young can they start? Is it okay?
Well, I think it would vary as far as what kind of things, how they're eating and what kind of diet they have. I certainly think that kids even a few years of age can start taking vitamins. And again, you have to understand, these are things we should be getting from our food, but the question is, are we really getting it? Our diet has changed dramatically over the hundreds of years. You know, when we were eating raw foods and nuts and seeds and all those types of things, we were getting a lot more nutrients. But now we get so many things in a box. And a lot of them do not have the nutrients that they need.
With a lot of food out there, spoiled for choice, a lot of kids also are now fussy eaters, and parents are having a major headache getting them to eat all the greens and all the good stuff. So what are the common mistakes that they commit when it comes to, you know, coaxing their child or nagging at them to eat your dinner sit down and focus.
Yeah, that is such a universal question. I find wherever I travel, everybody always has a picky eater, a fussy eater at their table, and that's a very common thing. I think a few things parents have to understand is just developmentally, kids do go through stages where they can get more picky just naturally. Usually that's that 2-year-old who basically is going to refuse anything you ask them to do. That's pretty common. So some of it is sort of developmental, where when the parents are trying to make them do certain things, you see that 2-year-old child who's in that rebellious phase refuse to do that thing. So I generally will tell parents, don't nag them, don't bribe them. You know, you don't want to show your anxiety about the eating, because in that younger age group it can tend to backfire on you, and the kids will eat less because that's just the way they challenge the parents. Also, I just think role modeling. The parents need to be good role models for making good choices and offering foods. Sometimes I find parents get into that behavior of, well, I've got to make something special for them because this is all they eat. And they sort of get into that trap of only making certain meals for the kids. I have some families who make a separate meal for themselves and a separate meal for their child. That's not a good habit to get into. You want to keep offering things, show your enjoyment of choosing those fresh fruits and vegetables.
Right. Should you be overly concerned if your kid or your child does not finish his or her meal?
No, you want to respect their appetites, and there's been a lot of interesting research to show that sometimes when we try to force them to eat more food, we're not respecting their appetite. We override their natural mechanisms for being full, and that can create more problems in teaching them to overeat later on. So you have to be a little careful about trying to determine how much your kids should eat. And what we find, especially with that younger age group where this is so common, is their appetite varies. They don't eat the same amount at every meal or every day, so you have to go with the flow on that and say, okay, if they eat a good breakfast but maybe eat smaller lunch or dinner, that's okay.
But the other concern that the world faces today, I think it's really something that's echoed across the world, is obesity rates are going up, especially among children at a young age. Give us an idea how detrimental that is on the children's health when you develop that kind of problems at a very, very young age.
Yes, this is something that's a global problem, and it's something that I'm on many groups in San Diego to try and address this as sort of a social issue, because it really is becoming a public health concern around the world. And interesting, Asia has shown to have the same rate of increase in childhood obesity that we're seeing in the U.S., in the U.K., in Europe and other countries. So it's about 1% a year rise every year in the childhood obesity rate. And what this is translating into problems is their health risks. I mean, let alone sometimes just the self-esteem issues. And they even did a study on children to show that kids who are overweight had the same quality of life. They rated their quality of life the same as kids with cancer. So they're often depressed, and they have just that mental stress that can go along with that. And as they age, the big thing is their health risks. And one of the big concerns is diabetes. And looking at the Asian market, the diabetics in Asia make up about 2/3 of the world's diabetics right now. So that's a very large statistic.
You know, on that note, a lot of media agencies have quoted that obesity is epidemic now, and that's one of your top 10 stories of 2006. So
it's too easy to eat the kind of foods that are around. The tasty ones are usually the most unhealthy ones.
So I can already hear a New Year's resolution.
What, for me? Oh. Exercise a bit more. If you're going to eat badly, at least exercise.
Yeah,
a balance.
lose weight, diet, the usual.
Or a balance. Strike a balance. You know, eat the good and the bad stuff. All right, we'd like you to be a part of our show. We want to hear from you. Any views or feedback you have about the program or the segments you've seen, just drop us an email, ptm@channelnewsasia.com.
And hey, have you made any New Year resolutions? Let us know about it. Tell us. And we'd love to know, and we'll share it with others if we can.
That's right. We'll help keep you on track, you know. We can check in every now and then.
Exactly.
Okay, we're off for a short break now. We're back in 2 minutes. Stay with us here on Primetime Morning.
See you in just a moment.